right, it's looking like a pretty good number. Quite a few people here. What I want to do is just, again, thank you all for coming. This is Lofty's A2P 10 DLC webinar, making sure that you've got an opportunity to ask questions and learn a little more about what this application to person uh, texting regulation is all about and how it is going to affect you as a Lofty user. Megan is going to be our primary presenter today. Megan Eckelman, she is from the product team and knows this backwards and forwards. I will ask you all to set up your questions and answers using the systems that she outlays. We do have a Q&A here in Zoom where you can put them, but she's also going to share another place where you can put questions that we can track. With that said, I'm going to stop yammering and let Megan take over. This is Megan Eckelman.
Hey everyone, nice to meet you. Today I have a quick webinar to go over the A2P application to person 10 DLC 10 digit long code regulations. These are regulations that are put in place outside of Lofty, so we're doing our best to make sure everyone is getting registered and getting compliant. If you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A box. We'll also have some time at the end for questions along with a form to fill out if you have anything that didn't get answered here. If you're seeing a specific error code that we don't address, we want to make sure we're recording that and getting back to everyone. And we will also send a follow-up email with all of the questions asked here, and we'll update our Help Center documentation just so that, you know, everyone is getting all the information that they need. Right, so quick agenda. We're going to go over what is A2P 10 DLC, how to register, some common reasons why registration is failing, what to do after registering, and then, like I said, at the end, we'll have some time for questions. So what is A2P 10 DLC? So application stands for application, or A2P stands for application to person. So if you're sending text messages from your Lofty account, so you have your list of leads and you're sending text messages to them using your virtual phone number, that is considered application to person. 10 DLC is 10-digit long code, and this is simply phone numbers in the United States and Canada are 10 DLC numbers. So they've got the +1 and then the rest of the numbers. One thing to note is that this is a regulation that is only for United States phone numbers. So if you don't text any leads that are in the United States or have a United States-based phone number, you don't need to register. You will likely still see that prompt to register in the CRM, just because it is possible you could not live in the US and text US leads. Our system doesn't necessarily know exactly who you're texting, so anyone can register, but it's only going to be required if you are texting phone numbers that are based in the United States. All right, so why is this important? So this is a regulation by US telecom carriers, and it's primarily to protect consumers from being spammed. So all of you that are texting through Lofty, you're, real estate agents, you are texting leads whose phone numbers you've gotten as a means to talk to them about real estate, right? Buying and selling homes. You're not spamming them, and we know that. But this is just to register what your business is and why you are sending text messages so that these US telecom carriers have an idea of who you are and why you're sending these text messages. And again, like I said, if you're not texting United States phone numbers, then you don't need to register. You can disregard all of this and just ignore those pop-ups. We're going to work on getting rid of those banners and registration prompts if they're not necessary for you. All right, so next I'm going to hop over to a demo account so I can show you how to register, go over the differences between sole proprietor and standard brands and campaigns, and talk about some of the costs. All right, so over here I have a demo account. So the A2P 10 DLC registration settings will be located in settings, underneath call text settings, and then we have a section here for 10 DLC compliance. If you haven't registered at all, the screen will look a little bit different with just an informational graphic with the option to register. This is an example of what it looks like if you have registered already. So you can see here, this page is our brands. So the brand is what your company is, your company name. If you're a sole proprietor, it'll be your name. And that's the brand listed here. You can see the type of brand that's been registered, the date it was created, along with the registration statuses, which is going to be either verified or unverified. So if we click on one of these that is verified, we can see all the information here, the date that it was created, the type, and then we can see here, this is a standard brand, and then these are the campaigns that are listed underneath the brand. And the campaigns are really just the reason why you're sending text messages. So the brand is what your company is, and the campaign is why are you texting? Initially, I think this was a bit confusing because we consider campaigns to be things like Lofty Smart Plans. And those are a bit more granular than this campaign needs to be. This campaign is just in general, you're a real estate agent texting leads about real estate purposes. So if we click on this campaign, we can see that information here. So the campaign description is, and these are just samples. So these aren't real. This is a test account. But the campaign description will be something like, I text leads in my system because they are interested in buying or selling a home. Sample messages, these are just example text messages that you might send. And then how are they consenting to receive messages? This is an example of, how are you getting their phone numbers? How are these people saying that it's okay for you to text them? And then underneath the campaign is where the phone numbers live. So these will be all of your virtual phone numbers that are connected through Lofty. So this will be your personal virtual number, your company number, your AI assistant phone number, any virtual phone number in your Lofty account that is texting your leads. And once your campaign is verified, the phone numbers will be added automatically. If you're noticing that your campaign is verified and your phone number isn't listed below, that's something to submit a ticket to our team and we'll make sure it gets added over, but your phone number should be getting added here automatically. All right, so next, let's go over how to register. So on this page, I have multiple brands listed, and this is just because this is an example account where I've gone through and registered multiple times. You can register multiple brands, and under most brands, you can register multiple campaigns. The only one that you can't is a sole proprietor campaign. So if we click register a new brand, we have two options here. We have the option for I have a tax ID, an EIN, or a CBN, and this is going to direct you to do a standard brand. And if you say I don't have a tax ID, that is going to direct you to create a sole proprietor brand. So one thing to note with the sole proprietor brand is it only allows you to register one campaign, and that campaign can only have one phone number registered under it. And the brands and campaigns, these are all created by the campaign registry. So I'll have somebody post the campaign registry FAQ in the chat. And this is a good place to go to get some more information on this. Everything with A2P 10DLC registration is required and vetted by the campaign registry. We're just helping you get registered. Either way, if you select standard or sole proprietor, the registration process is the same. Once we hit continue, we're presented with this screen where we are filling out your company information. Here we don't have an option for the EIN since this is the sole proprietor option. If we come in and click that I do have a tax ID, it'll next select the plan. So those are the two differences here. For sole proprietor, there's only one option for a campaign, so it just puts us directly in here. For a standard brand, we have multiple options for our campaign. So if we have a tax ID number, the system is going to recommend plan A, B, or C for you based off of your texting behavior. It's going to look at how many phone numbers do you have in your system, how many text messages are you sending, and it's going to recommend one of these for you. The registration process for all of these is the same. So you just want to select the one that fits your needs, and they also have different costs. So A is going to be the lowest cost, B is going to be the middle cost, C is going to be the highest cost. It'll also look at the number of phone numbers. So for a standard brand and campaign, you can connect multiple phone numbers to each standard campaign. So with these two, A and B, you can connect up to 400 phone numbers per campaign. So for most of our Lofty users, when we look at the number of phone numbers that you have on your account, let's say we look at all of the users on your account and we assume that each of those users has one personal phone number that they use for texting. For the most part, you could register one standard brand for the whole account with one standard campaign, one of these, and register everyone's phone numbers on that. So that's what we recommend for most of our users. The one thing we need to know is that if anyone is operating under a different brand, if they aren't texting under the same kind of company brand that you use, they'll need to make sure they're registering their own. And that's just because the campaign registry does go through and vet what you submit here, and they make sure that it's all accurate, and that is why we're getting some of these rejections.
Hey, Megan,
So,
we've got our first question that I think you might be able to answer right now.
yeah.
A question from Mari Batsi. If a broker registers the business, do all of the agents for that account using the same virtual number get taken care of by that registration?
Yes, if they're using, if you have multiple agents using the same virtual number, like for example, the company number can be used by multiple users on one account, it only needs to be registered once. Basically, each phone number will get added to a campaign and then it will be registered.
Perfect, thanks. If we need to follow up on that one, we can. The other question I have here is if a Canadian user is going to be doing this, do they need a tax ID or would they just choose they don't have one?
They would choose if they have a tax ID, they'll need to select that option. That would be the CBN. I think it stands for Canadian Business Number.
The CBN, perfect, thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. When you select, I have a tax ID, EIN is in the US, CBN is in Canada. And this is something that's really important. If you have a tax ID, you have to select this option. You can't select the sole proprietor because when the campaign registry is vetting what you're providing, if they know, if they look into your company and see that you have a tax ID, they will fail your registration. So you just want to make sure here, if you have a tax ID, you click this one. If you don't, click this one. And as far as getting an EIN, I see that question in the chat. That is probably a better question for the IRS, not for Lofty. So we're just going to come in here and go through a quick registration. I selected that I do have an EIN, so this is the standard registration. It's saying it's recommending plan A. I can go in and select another one though if I want. Let's say I'm a newer user and I think actually I know I'm going to be sending more than 6,000 text messages per day. You can go ahead and register this one now. And we'll click continue. So this is where it's going to start asking about our company. So I'm just going to type in some nonsense information here to get through it really quickly. And just know that everything is vetted by the campaign registry. So you do want to make sure that you are filling all of this out correctly. Don't go through like I am and fill out nonsense information. And if you have your website configured on Lofty already, this will be auto-filled here. It is looking at the website that you put in, and it is going to say, if you put on the next page something about leads registering on your website, this is the website they're going to go to. So you want to make sure that the website that you put in here is an active website. It's a website you actually use. It is, if they go through and follow the steps on the next page, they can actually vet the information. So we put in all of our business information, and this is where some of this is going to be auto-filled. You can edit this if you want, but this is where it's pulling our company name, uses this campaign to connect leads who have opted into our real estate database to discuss home buying or selling needs. A2P 10DLC registration is for all businesses. It's not just for real estate, but we are simplifying the registration and registering for a marketing type branding campaign. So here, this description is feeding into that. Ultimately, you are texting them for marketing needs or marketing your services. Next, for these sample text messages, these can easily be pulled if you have any kind of a text template, a smart plan where you send text, or you can easily just type something out quickly that is a common text message that you might send. And then here, this is something else that we've filled out. How do end users opt into receiving messages? Here, it's automatically pulling in your website from the previous page. So this is assuming your Lofty built website. And if you don't have a Lofty built website, you'll want to make sure you're editing this to reflect how you're getting your leads' phone numbers. How are they opting in to receive text messages from you? The campaign scope, this is where you have the option to share your brand and campaign with others on your account. So if you select to have it shared, this is where you can decide if you want to have it available to everyone on your account or not, basically. I'm on an enterprise type account. So when I click this, I can see my groups. I only have one group on my account. So this is where if you're on an enterprise account, you can limit this and share it with only your own specific group. You can share it with the entire company. We're really recommending whoever the Lofty account owner is to go in and register and share it with their team. Because like I said, for these standard brands, you can add a minimum of 400 phone numbers to them. If you select the special campaign, it's higher. I have it in the Help Center article. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's in the thousands. I think it's something like 5,000 phone numbers. So for most users, creating one brand and one campaign should be sufficient to register everyone's numbers. If you want to register only for yourself and you don't want anyone else's phone numbers to be registered on your campaign, you can select My Campaign and it'll make it private. So no one else will see your campaign. No one else's phone numbers will be added to it. And this campaign scope can be changed after this has been submitted. Then we just, declare the information you provided is true and accurate. This is, again, just going through, making sure that, especially like on the business profile, everything's correct. Here, everything is correct. That you understand that the purpose of registering is so you and your team members can send SMS messages to your leads in your system. And then also just acknowledging that it requires a review period. In my experience, the review period has been only a couple of days. I think it can take up to a week or two, so just be mindful of that. But we've been seeing these get verified pretty quickly. All right, so on the next page, it's making me provide a sample message. Let's see if this is enough characters. All right. So when we hit submitted pay, we do have this pop-up here that it's letting you know that basically Lofty isn't taking any money for this registration. As you submit and pay, we are passing that money straight on through to the campaign registry, and all of the fees are are created by them. We're not creating these fees. So as far as if you submit and you want a refund, that's difficult for us because we don't really have that money. We've already paid it to the campaign registry. So this pop-up is just making you aware that you don't want to submit this unless you're ready. If you think something might not be right, you don't want to register this yet. I do see a question in the chat about a real cell phone number in addition to your virtual number. Through Lofty, you can only send text messages from a virtual number. So there's no need to register an actual cell phone number with this. So once we hit continue, this is where we'll see the fees. Nothing will be charged until you hit the checkbox here and continue. But you can see the fees here. So there is a $44 one-time vetting fee for this brand registration, since in this we are submitting both a brand and a campaign. We also have a campaign registration, the $15 vetting fee, and then a $10 monthly fee. And on this, we see our total right now is only $59. It's only charging for the vetting fees. This $10 monthly fee, Lofty is actually covering that for the first month. So, until you're totally verified, you're not going to pay this monthly fee, but this $10 monthly fee for this campaign will be a recurring fee that will be added on to your monthly Lofty bill. And again, we're paying that directly through to the campaign registry. So that is really it as far as registering an entirely new brand and campaign. You can also go in, if you already have a brand that's verified, you can register a new campaign. So this will skip the business profile part, and it will only allow you to fill out just the campaign section. I don't know if there's any questions on this specifically. Otherwise, I can move on to the next section.
We do have one question here that is regarding kind of what if registration fails? It may be related to the billing. They said, what if registration fails, but the application is correct, as they're not controlling our process. They've had, I guess, some problems with their EIN with another vendor, but they were able to get it escalated and fixed. Is that something we cover a little bit later, or is now a good time?
Yeah, so depending on why the registration failed, sometimes we are able to resubmit on your behalf. So there are a few common errors that we've been seeing. And some of these we've already corrected by resubmitting. So it will depend, I guess, on the specific failure reason. So I guess the answer here is maybe. Depends on why it failed. We do have some common registration errors, and these are mostly due to campaign registration, not brand registration. But if you know that there is some kind of a common error, like with an EIN number or something with the business registration, sometimes we can resubmit that on your behalf and not cause an additional charge. So these common errors, I have these outlined in our Help Center article. I think somebody has posted that in the chat maybe, but the Help Center article will go over some of these common errors and what they mean, what you can do to correct them. And some of them we are already correcting on your behalf. So I know this error here, this was the most common one initially. That was the vetting was rejected due to terms and conditions. So we figured out what was going on with this and we corrected it and resubmitted it. So if you're still seeing this error, please let us know. At the end, I have a form to fill out so we can take a look at that. But this one was our most common error by far when we first rolled this out, and it should be corrected now. I have this long list of other common errors. These are all outlined on our Help Center article, so I don't want to spend too much time here, but I want to point out a couple that are important. This top one, invalid website URL. This is when the website that is put into the brand, like I showed you when I registered, it pulled in my Lofty Built website domain that had been configured. So it knew that that website was active. But if you're going through onboarding or if you're in the process of changing your website, maybe you bought a domain and you want to use it, but you haven't configured it yet. So it's not an active website. Like if you go to the website and it says, this domain is hosted at GoDaddy, offer to buy it, you want to make sure that it's actually configured to your real estate website before filling this out. Incorrect sole proprietor brand registration. If you have a tax ID number, you have to register as a standard brand. You can only register as a sole proprietor brand if you don't have that tax ID number. And then some of these other ones like call to action verification issue, opt-in error. These ones we've also corrected by auto-filling out that section in the campaign registration about how our leads opting in to receive text messages from you. We've updated that, so we shouldn't be seeing this one as much. Just keep in mind that if you edit any of the information that we auto-filled for you, we can't guarantee that it'll not bring in this error. So we've tried to simplify the registration forms to bypass a lot of these errors. So that's all I have. I have this QR code, which will lead to a Microsoft form. This is where we want to collect a lot of information. So if there's something that didn't get answered here, we are collecting the Q&A, and I have some time here to go over some of those. So I'll have my team pick out some of these to answer. But specifically, if you're seeing error messages or if your brand or campaign failed and you're not sure why, we want to collect some of that data. So if you scan this QR code, it'll pull open a form where we can get that information. So
All right,
I'll have my team pull some questions for me.
I've got a question for you from Wesram Azevedo. They want to know if you can edit a brand that has already been added. Can we make edits to brands that have already been added here?
Let's see. So if it's unverified, yes, you can go in and edit that. If it's been verified, though, you can't. So once it's been verified, it's locked in and really no need to go in and edit it. If it's unverified, though, this is where it's basically asking you to edit it. This one, I submitted this myself and it failed because I was obviously entering in fake information. One thing is, though, that when you edit and resubmit this, it is going to charge again. So if you're seeing some error, if you have questions on why it failed and you want to make sure it's getting right, like if you know what's wrong, if you know you typoed something, go ahead, edit it, resubmit it. If you're not sure what's wrong, we're working on making sure we can get all of these answers for you. It's a new process, and I know this whole compliance thing kind of feel like it was sprung on a lot of you, and it felt like it was sprung on us a little bit too. So we're working through it, and we're just trying to make sure that you're all able to continue texting your leads without any interruption.
Awesome, thank you. We have another question here, just if we could get some clarification on how this works in situations where people have both multiple domain names and multiple phone numbers. We'll start with the one with phone numbers. If somebody has personal virtual numbers for all of their agents, can those just be added to the campaign?
Yes. Yeah. So once you have your campaign that's verified, any virtual numbers on the account that are able to be added will be added automatically. So on this campaign, I only have this one virtual number and it got added when the campaign got verified. If you have this set, so underneath permission, we have our settings cogwheel, and this is where you can set it to a private campaign or a shared campaign. If this is a private campaign, it's not going to add any virtual phone numbers that are owned by any of your team members. It won't get added to the campaign. If it's a shared campaign, though, once the campaign is verified, all of the other virtual numbers on your account will get added to it automatically, as long as there are spots available. So for this campaign, there's 400 phone numbers that can be added. I have 399 more. So if I have an account though with 500 virtual numbers, it's only going to be able to add 400 of those. So we'll have 100 virtual phone numbers that will need to get added to another campaign.
For that, then the easiest process or the best way to do this, if they have numbers that aren't already listed under the brand campaign, would be to make sure it's changed from private to shared, and then add those phone numbers up until they've used the allotted 400, then create another campaign.
Yep, exactly.
Perfect, thank you. Then
And virtual phone numbers, again, this is going to be company numbers, your personal virtual phone numbers, and AI assistant phone numbers.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarification. Megan, we have another question here about multiple domain names pointing to the primary site. Do they need to take that into consideration, or just the main domain name that's like the principal one for the website?
Yeah, you'll want to make sure, specifically when we look here at the how do end users consent to receive messages, we have, this is, this was just thrown together by a developer. So this is not accurate, but the pre-filled text that we have in that box says, leads will go to my website, and it fills in your website. You want to make sure that the website that you put in that brand is the website that your leads are visiting. So if you have a primary website, like if we think about it in terms of Lofty, where you've got your team website and then everyone might have a subdomain underneath that, you can point to that team website, because ultimately that is collecting the lead information. Even if everybody has their own website as well, that doesn't really matter that much, because they're connected also to that top level team website. So if you have multiple domains that are all pointing around, point to the one that has the, your primary website that leads are going to register. Whatever website it is that you're mainly directing your leads to, whether you have ads or forms or anything, your business card, the primary website that you're getting your leads to.
Great, thank you. In terms of physical addresses, we've had a couple of questions here regarding physical addresses. Is there a concern if they have a different physical address in terms of like their corporate registered address and the broker address?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, actually. So I think it will depend on when you're registering your brand, because the address is really only important for the brand, right? So you've got your company name and the registered business address. So I think it will depend on, is the company name going to be your business name or your broker name? If you're putting all of this under like a top level broker and using like the broker's EIN number, you'll probably want to put in their address, because it's going to go through and vet the company name with the EIN number and the address that the company should be at. And if these things aren't matching, like let's say you put your company name here, but your broker's address here, when they're vetting that, they're going to see a disconnect. So you just want to make sure it's consistent.
Thank you. Looking through these questions here, if somebody already has a brand registered via Twilio, is there anything that they would need to do to connect Lofty to that same brand registration, or do they need to do a separate registration?
Yeah, that's another really good question. So I'm assuming they have their phone number hosted with Twilio. So their number, because what we're doing really is registering the phone numbers. Because the whole purpose of this is that when these telecom carriers like T-Mobile, AT&T, like all of those, when they're looking at their consumers and the text messages that they're getting from businesses, they want to know who that business is and why they're texting, and they are identifying that business through the phone number. So the correct answer is, if they've already registered through Twilio, they have their phone number registered, then they are registered with the campaign registry. what I need to do is talk to our tech team to make sure we can basically port over that registration into the Lofty account so that you're not going to get any kind of error message or anything when you try to text a lead from that phone number. So that is something that I need to follow up on. That's a very good question.
Looks like we still have a few more questions here. The person who set up the Q&A via that QR code, if there's any questions there, feel free to share them here. But we do have, for example, again, regarding address, the question, if their website address is different than, so the address listed on the website, if that's different than the address associated with their EIN, do we have a rule as to which one would be used here?
These are very good questions. Yeah, so basically what you're saying is you've got the company name with the EIN and the address, but on the website you have a different address.
That's what the question sounds like to me from Bradley, yes.
Yeah. So I think I'll have to follow up because these are some details on how the campaign registry is specifically vetting this. I don't know if they're necessarily going to the website and making sure that the address and everything matches up, because it is possible that, you can have your company and register it somewhere that is, not where you're physically located.
Especially with state compliance for broker addresses having to show up on the website, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a really good question, and we'll follow up because I think specifically for like the real estate industry and how, they have requirements on how things have to be displayed on their website. These are the kind of things that we need to look in specifically that the campaign registry might not be able to answer because they are registering these phone numbers for all industries and all business types, and nonprofits too. So we will get back to you, and this is something that we'll definitely address in our Help Center article because it's key for our clients specifically.
Perfect. I've got a question here that's one I've also seen over on our Facebook user forum for Lofty. Brian is asking about sort of the what to do in the situation of a campaign rejection, specifically due to a non-compliant privacy policy and terms and conditions. You addressed that a little bit earlier, but can you talk about what somebody's recourse would be or what they should do, and who they should contact for assistance with that if they're not making headway?
Yeah, if it is this failure specifically, we should have already reprocessed that, resubmitted it for them. If they aren't seeing that, if there's any way to get that form to them, so just so we can collect their details, like their account information, we can have our team look into it. But for this failure specifically, and these numbers are Twilio provided error codes. For this one specifically, this is something that we should have corrected and resubmitted at no cost to our users. So if they aren't seeing that it's been resubmitted, or if it's still saying failure or something like that, let us know and we'll look into it.
Right on. Let's see. Answered that. Just looking through here. Multiple companies, we've done that. In the event that somebody's got multiple companies using the same domain name, different offices or where they're basically different businesses for tax purposes, how would they manage that?
So
I'll read the question as it's worded in there. It may be better. It says, what if we have multiple companies on the same domain name? For example, we have multiple offices that fall under different brokerages. How do we manage this?
Yeah, so they're on the same domain. Are they, and they're all on the same Lofty account, I'm assuming, since if they have the same webs, is it a Lofty built website or a different like marketing website that's not associated with a Lofty account?
Amanda, can you clarify in the chat, please? Just asking for a clarification.
Yeah, I'm just curious because if it's something like a multi-team account, when you're registering your 10DLC, you would need to register those on the individual teams. So it wouldn't be on like the top level, like multi-team, like broker backend side where they can see all of the teams. They would need each of their teams to individually like register their own. So if it's something like that where, you know, maybe it's a multi-team where they're all kind of the same, but there's different teams and they each have their own system and numbers and users and everyone, they would want to register 10DLC on each of those individual multi-teams. If it's something more like an enterprise account, where if we're talking about that top level company website, they should, in theory, be able to register once, one brand and campaign. It might be the campaign type C, like the special campaign for franchises. No, it's not. If we go back here, if we register this one, where it's allowing them to add like something like 5,000 phone numbers, this one might be the better option.
All right, so type C would probably be the most applicable in that case, if you've got multiple offices, different brokers, all falling under one campaign.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Somebody did ask if there's a way that they would be able to just register directly with the registry, if they wanted to bypass registration in Lofty.
Yes. I think we've posted the campaign registry. The only thing that I would want to double check with our technical team, because essentially we need to verify that your phone numbers are registered for 10DLC so that you can continue texting your leads. So if you register your number outside of Lofty, but we don't know that, there might be a blocker in our system that stops you from texting leads. So we don't want to, we don't want that to happen, obviously. Whether you register with us or with someone else, I mean, the costs and everything are the same. I'll just need to put something in our FAQs in our article about how to do that, especially because when I consider new users in coming to Lofty, this is going to be a requirement moving forward. So for all of you that have been existing users, you'll have to register once and you'll be done. But for new users that sign up, this is something that they'll need to make sure that they're registered to text leads. And if they've already registered elsewhere, we want to make sure that we can, bring their number over and make sure that that registration comes through. So that's just another part of this that we need to make sure that we're documenting better in our Help Center article.
Thank you. And then you went over the pricing that is included in the Help Center article, right?
Yes. Yeah. The Help Center article does have pricing information. And it's broken out into sole proprietor and standard. So I have two tables in there. Can I don't know, can you all see this new screen?
We got you.
Okay, sharing my screen, so it's always a little weird. But for a sole proprietor, it's one campaign with one phone number. $2 a month is your monthly charge. And then for a standard brand, it depends. So we have 3 plans. These two, A and B, can have 400 phone numbers per campaign. Plan C can have 5,000 phone numbers. So like I said, the one thing I want to make clear is that for most Lofty accounts, you can get away with registering one standard brand and one standard campaign. Most Lofty accounts don't have more than 5,000 phone numbers. And then the monthly cost for each of these, this one is the lowest, $1.50 a month. Then we have $10 a month, $30 a month. So this is the cost moving forward. And that's for the campaign. So if you have one phone number linked or 400 phone numbers linked, it's $1.50 a month for Plan A.
Perfect, thank you. For everybody who is still listening along here and watching along, we've got about 8 minutes of Megan's time left. And if you've got a question, please get it in there. If you have a question that wasn't answered or you need feedback on maybe a specific issue, there is a link from Chris Ortiz in the main chat that will allow you to fill it out and post a question there. So if you've got an unresolved error with a campaign or a brand, that's somewhere where you could leave that question for us so we can follow up on it. You can also scan the QR code that Megan's showing on her screen right now. But please use that link that Chris Ortiz posted. And then I'm going to jump up here and look and see if there's any questions we can answer right now. The Lofty Masterclass guest user asked a question that's specific to what EXP is doing with regards to A2P 10DLC. Megan, my instinct here is that they would want to reach out to kind of their EXP contact, and that might be something we'd need to get answered through their customer success manager and their kind of account owner at EXP. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, yeah. So for EXP specifically, and for all of our larger enterprise accounts like EXP, I have been working with their customer success managers to put together what the ideal plan is for these accounts. And ultimately, it's up to the accounts to decide on their own. I do see in the chat here, they say individual agents need to register themselves. So if that is what EXP is deciding, then that's how they'll need to do it. There's multiple ways to register, and ultimately all we're trying to do is get the virtual numbers on a verified campaign. So that's the goal. So, however, each of those larger accounts want to make sure that's accomplished. Our enterprise customer success teams are working with them to make sure that they're understanding how to get everyone registered, especially because some of those accounts, they're really large and they are all set up in different ways. So I'm pretty well versed in the standard Lofty user that signs up for an account either by themselves or with their small team. When it gets to larger accounts like that, you know, it's a bit out of my depth.
All right, and then
Okay, yeah. So,
a
and I would say
follow-up
when
question.
in doubt, if you are not the account owner, reach out to your Lofty account owner and just see how they want you to move forward. Anyone can register their own. So if you aren't sure what to do, if you know, are kind of like, a one-person show here, you can always go in and register yourself and get your own number verified so that you can make sure that you're still able to text any leads in your system. If you are the account owner, we recommend you register the brand and campaign for all of the users on your account. In general, if you have a standard campaign, you should be able to add everyone's phone numbers to it. And, if you are like a solo agent, you can really register whatever you want just to make sure your numbers are verified. Your personal virtual number and AI phone numbers are considered two different phone numbers. So you would require either a standard plan, or if you don't have a tax ID number, then multiple sole proprietor brands. Since the sole proprietor brand, like we said here, this sole proprietor brand, it can only have one campaign linked to it, and only one phone number can be linked to that campaign. So this is quite limited. And it is specifically if you do not have a tax ID. So, if you're not sure, look at your tax documents. The IRS will be the one to tell you if you have an EIN or a CBN. But this is pretty limited. So this would be recommended if you don't have this and you really only have one number. If at all possible, the standard brand is going to be a better deal, because even if we look at this standard brand plan A, it's $1.50 a month. So it'll be a better deal for you anyway. Any last questions before we break?
There's
I haven't
one
talked this much in
still,
a while, guys.
there's one still in the Q&A. I think we answered it previously, but if somebody has already registered their brand via another vendor, it sounds like the best bet, because this is going to be associated with a different phone number, is for them to go through the registration here as well.
Yeah, so this is where, for your registration, this is specifically to register your virtual numbers that you use on your Lofty account. So if you've already registered like your cell phone number or your business line, that will be different than what you're registering here through Lofty. If you have registered, if you've gone through the process and you have some kind of documentation that shows that your Lofty virtual numbers have been registered and linked, or if you've already gone through the campaign vetting, you want to bring that over, that would be something to put in the form, because I can talk to our technical team to see if there's any way we can pull that information over. I'm just not sure. Oh, other virtual app. So is the virtual number on Street Text different than the virtual number for Lofty? I guess I would assume so. So, yeah, so specifically here, we would need, what you'd be looking for is to bring your already vetted brand and campaign over to Lofty and linking your Lofty numbers to it. And that I'm not sure. So if you could fill out the form and we can look into it and get back to you. I appreciate you all joining the webinar. We'll follow up with all of you via email. We'll link to some of our resources. I'll see if I can send out my slide deck. I'm sure I can. I appreciate you all joining. I've learned a lot also from your questions, so we can make sure we're updating our documentation and getting all this information out to you. I know relatively, when we look at all Lofty users, our group here today was pretty small, but I appreciate you all joining and asking these questions, and this will help out everybody else, everybody that wasn't able to make it today. So thank you.